everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Kevin, I am a geek, you are watching Kevin the Geek, and it is time to begin my Marvel movie reviews. And what a time to start it than with Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. So, I've finally watched Black Panther, Wakanda Forever for the very first time. And this movie experience was a hard one to watch, I'm not gonna lie, given the very shocking passing of Chadwick Boseman. This was a man who I believe really inspired a lot of people. Now, of course, I am not of African heritage, as you can tell, but I really appreciate everything that he did, clearly, to inspire people through his portrayal of this character and in other roles that he's done throughout his wonderful, unfortunate, short career. It was very plain that this movie was not the movie that was intended. The fact that they basically had to rewrite a completely finished script and make all of these adjustments in a relatively short period of time. First of all, huge props to everyone involved with the production of this movie, because that's not an easy feat to achieve. But the thing that I loved most with this movie is how they really tried to honour the legacy of Chadwick Boseman. I like the fact that they didn't write him out and kill him off in a way that it was like in a blaze of glory or something like that. They killed him off in the way that he sadly died in real life, through an illness. And I think that is the best send-off that they could have given to him in that regard. And it allowed them to give Shuri a real emotional kind of arc within this movie, with her kind of taking on the Black Panther mantra. But the loss and the grief that all these characters showed within this movie was heightened because of the fact that it was Chadwick himself who had sadly passed away. And as far as I'm aware, I don't believe any of his co-stars actually knew about his illness until, after his passing. My biggest commendation has to go to Angela Bassett for her portrayal as T'Challa's mother. And I remember watching it thinking, this is one of the best performances I've seen. And I think she could get an Oscar for this. I then looked at the Oscar nominations, just after I watched the movie. And it turned out Angela Bassett indeed was nominated for Best Supporting Actress. And it's a really weird thing to think about, that she could get an award for really being herself. But she showed all of the emotions in the way that you would expect of that character that they're dealing with at that moment in time. Now, I appreciate at the moment I've spoken a lot about Chadwick Boseman, but this is the thing. Chadwick has really had an impact on this movie. I don't think it's quite as good as a movie as the first Black Panther, but I don't think it was ever going to be, because of the really unique circumstances behind the movie. This was a very good movie, some very good performances, a lot of very emotional performances. I'll speak about Namor, or Namor as they pronounced it within the movie. I thought he was an intriguing character, but I felt that by the end, something just didn't quite, reach the levels of the kind of hype that you would have expected with Namor, because he's a character that people have been really wanting to have appear in the MCU for quite a while. But I believe because of the legal kind of issues to do with the rights and distribution rights, with Marvel selling off the rights to various characters in the past, I don't think a lot of people quite knew how or when that potentially may happen. I like the design. I really like the design. And I like the design of his fellow brethren, because for them, they have the sort of mask thing over their faces. But the problem was, I had to kind of think of my own reasons why they had that, because either they did explain it and I just didn't understand it, or they didn't explain it. For me, the way I kind of had it in my head is the fact that Namor can breathe above the water. They can't without the aid of this kind of apparatus over their faces. That's my kind of take on it. I could be completely wrong there. If I am wrong, please drop a comment down below and let me know. Overall, I do think that this was a very solid movie. Yes, it had its flaws, which really aren't the fault of the directors, the writers, the performers. It's because they had to make the best of a very difficult situation. And maybe an argument could have been made that should they have delayed it, given them more time to do the production of it. But overall, it was a solid movie. I am going to re-review this movie because in the future I'm going to be starting with Iron Man and basically reviewing every single movie, and at that point I'm going to do proper actual scores for movies and kind of use that to help me rank the movies. But for now, I really enjoyed this movie. Not as much as the first one, but it was still a very good movie. Two things I'll just quickly touch on while I remember, because I nearly forgot to mention these. First of all, the actual funeral at the start of the movie, when T'Challa dies in the movie. That was beautifully done. Now, I'm not of African descent. I don't know anything really about African culture. But the way it was portrayed to me seemed to suggest that that is how they celebrate the life of someone. That it's not, mournful and sorrowful. When you're having the funeral, you are celebrating their life. And if that is truly how the Africans do that, I think that's beautiful. It was a beautiful send-off for T'Challa and for Chadwick Boseman. The big surprise for me in this movie was having Michael B. Jordan back as Killmonger, which, admittedly, it was only part of the ancestral plane, so it wasn't something that, he's actually back and he's, alive. If you haven't already seen it, I did recently do a ranking, well, two rankings actually, of the villains of the MCU from phases 1 to 3. I did one that was about the main villains, one about the secondary villains. And what I expressed in that was I really felt that they made a bad decision to kill off Killmonger. I was really hoping they were going to bring him back. And I think because you didn't actually see the death, I think in my head I was hoping that maybe they, off screen might have done something, kind of did with Everett Ross, that they'd kind of, heal him in a way, maybe, I don't know, put him on ice or something, so he's just kind of there and they could wake him up in the future if need be. Obviously, from this movie, we now know that that won't be the case. But I still really, really hope that we get a chance to bring Killmonger back in the future. Because I think he's a really interesting character. And I think he could add a lot more to this universe than what we've had so far. But those are my first time thoughts of Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. What are your thoughts? Do you think that Angela Bassett deserves to win Best Supporting Actress at the Oscars? Do you think that this was a fitting tribute to Chadwick Boseman? Whatever your thoughts are, drop a comment down below. Now, at the time of recording, it is now 2 weeks until the release of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. So, when that comes out, there will be 2 reviews. I'll do a spoiler-free review and then the full-blown review on the Monday following the release. So make sure, if you haven't done so already, that you subscribe to the channel and you can get the notifications of when those go live. But for now, my name's Kevin, I am a geek, and you have been watching Kevin the Geek. Goodbye.